The Gulf of America poster is something that Donald Trump's really proud of. He thinks that the Gulf of America is actually written on the water. What is crazy is that Terry Moran kept trying to change topics. Donald Trump would not let him. I have never seen an interview where a reporter catches a politician in a mistake. The politician is the one who says, "Do not try to move on. I am not done embarrassing myself." Think about that for a moment. We are living in a time where the rules of politics have completely changed. Normally, when a public figure is caught doing something, they try to hide or deflect. What happens when a leader does the opposite? What happens when a leader insists on something that's not true, turning a normal media situation into a high-stakes psychological standoff? The people in the studio were laughing. Behind that laughter was a sense of absolute disbelief. This was not another joke. This was a lesson in how to control people's perceptions. You are about to see how a single image, a reporter and a late-night comedian expose the hidden machinery that controls modern politics. Because what started as a dispute over a map quickly turned into a feud that left veteran journalists completely stunned. The real question is not why the image was wrong. The real question is what happens when a leader demands that you ignore what you see with your eyes? What happens when a fake image becomes the policy? To understand how we got to this point, we have to look at the exact moment when the situation started to unfold. It begins like a late-night analysis of a controversial political interview. The stage lights are on, the graphics are ready. Desi Lydic is preparing to break down Donald Trump's latest appearance with Terry Moran. At first, the audience expects humor. As Lydic unpacks the exchange piece by piece, the mood gradually shifts from amusement to disbelief. The jokes start to fade, replaced by a realization. According to her analysis, the interview becomes an example of political persistence taken to an extreme. Donald Trump is not just defending a claim that critics have questioned. Instead, he appears determined to stand by a disputed image, even as challenges to its accuracy continue to surface. Litwick highlights what she views as the surprising aspect of the exchange. In political interviews, public figures confronted with uncomfortable facts try to redirect the discussion or change topics. It is a survival instinct. If the spotlight is too bright, you try to steer it. Donald Trump does the opposite. Then stepping away from the controversy, he remains focused on defending it repeatedly, returning to the same point and refusing to let the discussion move forward. For Litwick, that determination becomes the center of the comedy. It is a loop that refuses to close. The reporter wants to move on to crises, to economic policy, to the future of the nation, but the conversation is held hostage by a poster, a single disputed piece of paper. Why? What is the psychological payoff of refusing to back down when the entire world is watching? Why would a leader choose to anchor himself to an error? The answer reveals a strategy that anyone realized. I will give credit to Terry Moran. He held his ground to the point where it actually wore Donald Trump out. That is when we saw a moment of vulnerability from him. The tension in the room was palpable. Two forces colliding in time on national television. A veteran journalist armed with facts and a political powerhouse armed with willpower. Step by step, the pressure builds. Moran does not flinch. He pushes forward, asking the question, demanding a confrontation with reality. Then the dialogue takes a bizarre turn. He has got MS-13 on his knuckles. All right, okay, we will take a look. It is you who does such a disservice. We will take a look at that, sir. Say, yes, he does. Go on to something else. The fact you correct. Look at the mechanics of that breakdown. It is a glimpse into a collapsing narrative. Donald Trump is not just arguing, he is instructing the reporter on how the interview should go. Say, yes, he does, and go on to something. It is a demand for compliance over verification. She focuses on the spectacle of a politician voluntarily remaining in a difficult factual debate while insisting on continuing the argument. The result is a critique, the kind of late-night segment that inevitably attracts attention and sparks debate. If you are enjoying these dives into major media moments, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep content like this coming. What makes this particular clash compelling is not simply the original disagreement, it is everything that happens afterward, the ripple effect. As Lydic points out, Terry Moran continues pressing the issue, then moving on. He repeatedly returns to the underlying facts, forcing the conversation back to the disputed claims. In her view, this creates a television moment where confidence and persistence collide with sustained questioning. As the exchange continues, she argues that Donald Trump's demeanor gradually changes. What begins as certainty and control starts to look more defensive as the interview progresses. At points, Donald Trump appears eager to move the conversation toward larger topics, including international issues and broader political debates, while Moran repeatedly returns to the original subject. Lydic carefully tracks that shift throughout her segment. Then simply mocking, she presents a thoughtful analysis. That is Donald Trump in a nutshell. He says, "I cannot prove the things I believe, so just go along with them. Do not believe your eyes, believe the image. I, for one, will not believe the fake image." Right there, the comedic veil drops entirely. The underlying thesis is laid bare for the world to see, a battle not over geography or graphics, but over the control of truth itself. If you can convince people to believe the image over their own eyes, you possess the ultimate form of power. She presents it as an example of a communication strategy, one where a public figure attempts to regain control of a conversation that is no longer moving in the intended direction. According to her analysis, the tension becomes visible precisely because the usual methods of steering the narrative appear effective than expected. That growing frustration lays the groundwork for the conflict that follows. The room grows quiet. The comedic timing stretches out into a silence. The audience realizes they are not just watching a breakdown of an interview, they are watching a breakdown of the modern information ecosystem. The memorable moment arrives near the end of Lytwick's commentary when the humor gives way to a broader observation. With a delivery, she summarizes what she sees as a recurring political pattern. When facts and beliefs collide, the battle often becomes a struggle over which version of reality people choose to accept. The audience responds enthusiastically. The segment quickly gains traction online. Millions of views accumulate within hours. Shares, retweets, opinion pieces. The internet explodes. The story does not end there. Behind doors, the reaction is brewing. The broadcast had crossed a line. Donald Trump reportedly reacts strongly to both the critique of his interview performance and the broader analysis presented on television. The late-night mockery was not noise, it was a direct hit to the carefully preserved image of infallible success. Afterward, he takes to social media, posting a series of comments directed at Lydic. In Donald Trump fashion, the response focuses heavily on criticizing the messenger, questioning her abilities, and dismissing her work. The words are sharp, designed to invalidate the critique by destroying the credibility of the critic. The exchange quickly becomes a story in its right. The media landscape shifts its focus away from the ABC News interview and onto this new volatile battle between a former president and a late-night satirist. The tension builds to a fever pitch. Many expected the situation to escalate into a confrontation. Instead, when Lydic returns to the stage the evening, she takes a completely different approach. The music plays, the lights come up, the audience holds its breath waiting for the explosion. Then, responding with outrage or launching personal attacks of her own, she calmly reads portions of Donald Trump's criticism aloud. No anger, no rants. Looking directly into the camera, she delivers the remarks with a composed style that transforms the moment from a feud into another carefully crafted piece of comedy. By refusing to match the intensity of the attack, she completely disarms the weapon. She shifts the focus to the reaction itself, leaving viewers to decide which response carried more weight. The anger of the powerful or the quiet defiance of a joke? Ultimately, the confrontation reveals a truth about the world we inhabit. The real struggle on the stage is no longer about who has the better argument or who possesses the objective facts. It is about who can command the narrative, who can survive the scrutiny, and who can make the world look at an image and choose to believe the illusion. When the cameras turn off and the studio goes dark, the question still remains hanging in the air. In a world driven by performance, how much of what we believe is real? How much is just a very clever fake image?